That fear you have of deep water. The one you can't explain. The one that came before any childhood accident. It might not be yours. It might be the memory of someone who drowned in 1943. We treat phobias like glitches in our psychological wiring, random misfires, bad luck in the neural lottery. But what if they're not glitches at all? What if they're evidence? There's a body of research that almost no one talks about. Not because it's been disproven, but because it's too disruptive to the story we tell ourselves about who we are. A psychiatrist named Stevenson spent 40 years investigating children who spontaneously remember previous lives, not through hypnosis, not through suggestion. These were toddlers, 2, 3, 4 years old, who started speaking about people, places, and events they couldn't possibly know. And when investigators followed up, the details checked out. Names, addresses, family members, manner of death, forensic level accuracy. Here's the illusion. You think your consciousness began the day you were born. You think you started with this body, this name, this family. That before your first breath, there was nothing. A void. Non-existence. But that story only works if you ignore the children. A boy in Lebanon who at age 2 begins describing a man named Mahmoud who died in a car accident. He names the village. He names Mahmoud's wife and children. He has a phobia of cars and loud noises. When researchers take him to that village, he recognizes the house. He recognizes the widow. A girl in India who remembers being shot in the head during a family dispute. She's born with a birthmark, a small indentation, precisely where the bullet entered. She names her killer. The family is found. The case is documented. The killer confesses. These aren't metaphors. These aren't dreams. These are receipts. Memory isn't stored in your brain the way we've been taught. Your brain is more like a receiver, a radio tuning into a signal that exists beyond it. Which means when the body dies, the signal doesn't disappear. It just continues, looking for a new receiver. And sometimes, especially in young children before the ego fully forms, before the cultural programming solidifies, the old signal bleeds through. They remember, not everything, not perfectly, but fragments, emotional imprints, the intensity of the final moments. Stevenson documented over 2,500 of these cases. He didn't just collect stories, he cross-referenced them with historical records, interviewed families, verified facts. He found patterns. Most children who remember past lives start speaking about them between ages 2 and 5. The memories fade by age 7 or 8, as the new identity takes over. Children often have phobias connected to how they died. Drowned in the last life. Terrified of water now. Shot. Afraid of loud sounds. Burned. Irrational fear of fire. They frequently have birthmarks or physical anomalies that correspond to fatal wounds from the previous body. This isn't religious doctrine. This is forensic evidence of consciousness transferring across lifetimes. There's a case that still unravels me. A boy in Thailand, age 3, starts telling his parents he used to be a school teacher named Bua Kai. He says he was riding his bicycle to school when he was shot by 2 men. He describes the village, the road, the moment the bullet entered his back. His parents think it's fantasy, but the boy becomes obsessed. He draws maps. He names the teacher's children. He cries when he talks about his wife. Finally, they take him to the village he described. He walks directly to a house, knocks on the door. When an elderly woman answers, he says, "I've come home." She faints. She is Bua Kai's widow. Her husband was murdered exactly as the boy described, 47 years earlier. The boy is 7 now. He no longer remembers. But for a brief window, 2 lives overlapped. 2 identities shared one nervous system. And in that overlap, the illusion cracked. So let me ask you something. That thing you've always been afraid of, has anyone ever adequately explained why? That inexplicable pull you feel towards certain places, certain eras, certain people you've just met but feel you've known forever, where does that come from? That skill you picked up impossibly fast, as if you weren't learning it, but remembering it. What if you were? We dismiss these things. We call them coincidence, intuition, genetic predisposition. But what if they're bleed through? What if the reason you've always felt out of place in this life is because part of you is still holding on to the last one? You're not broken, you're not weird, you're not imagining it, you're just porous. The veil between this identity and the previous one hasn't fully sealed. And instead of pathologizing that, maybe we should pay attention. Because those fragments, those phobias, those pulls, those strange knowings, they're not disorders. They're evidence that you've been here before. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. If memory can carry forward, if trauma can imprint across lifetimes, then nothing is ever truly resolved by death. That unfinished business? It follows you. That wound you never healed? It reappears. That karmic knot you tied with someone in rage or betrayal? You'll meet them again. Different faces, same frequency. Death isn't an escape. It's a reset, a chance to try again. And the universe doesn't grade on effort. It grades on awareness. Did you see the pattern? Did you break the cycle? Did you love more than you feared? Because if you didn't, the lesson repeats. Think of it like this. You are not a single story. You are a library. Every lifetime is a book. Some chapters are violent. Some are quiet. Some end abruptly, mid-sentence. And when you close one book and open another, sometimes the ink from the previous page bleeds through. You see it in children because they haven't learned to ignore the bleed yet. They haven't been taught that death is the end, that the past is sealed, that you only get one go. They just know. And then we train it out of them. We tell them it's imagination, make-believe, fantasy, and slowly the memory fades, the veil thickens, the new identity takes over. But the truth doesn't disappear. It just goes underground, waiting for the moment you're ready to remember. Here's the reframe. You are not living a life. You are living life itself, moving through forms. What you call you is just the current expression, the current character in the play. But the actor, the consciousness animating the character, that's been here the whole time. Shifting, adapting, evolving. And every fear you carry, every inexplicable knowing, every person you meet and feel you've known forever. It's not random. It's continuity. Your soul doesn't care about the boundaries your mind draws. It doesn't recognize past life and current life as separate. To your soul, it's all one unfolding story. And the reason children remember more clearly than adults is simple. They haven't built the walls yet. They haven't learned to split reality into real and imaginary. They haven't been taught to dismiss the signal, so they receive it fully, unfiltered. And for a few brief years, they hold the proof. Consciousness doesn't begin or end, it only transforms. So what does this change? Everything. If you've lived before, then this life isn't your only shot. The pressure lifts. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be in a much longer arc. If your fears are memory scars, then healing them isn't about fixing yourself. It's about releasing what was never yours to carry. If you've known the people in your life before, then your relationships aren't accidents. They're assignments. Opportunities to resolve what went unfinished. To love better. to forgive deeper. And if you're going to come back, if this isn't the end, then how you live now matters in a completely different way. Because you're not just building a life, you're building the conditions for the next one. Every unhealed wound becomes a birthmark. Every unresolved conflict becomes a phobia. Every act of love becomes a gift you give your future self. You're not running out of time. You're in the middle of a much longer story. And the question isn't whether you'll get another chance. The question is, what are you doing with this one? I know this feels too big, too strange, too far outside the lines of what we're allowed to believe. But somewhere inside you, there's a part that's nodding, a part that's always known, a part that's been here before. Listen to it. If this stirred something in you, something you can't quite name but can't ignore, then stay with me. This is just the beginning. There are more doors to open, more illusions to dismantle, more truths we're not supposed to talk about, and I'm not going anywhere. So if you're ready to keep going, to keep waking up, to keep remembering who you really are beneath all the forgetting, I'll meet you in the next one.